Welcome back to America's Fractured Politics. Today's topic is one that seems to be everywhere: artificial intelligence. AI is no longer a futuristic concept. It's woven into the fabric of our economy, our daily lives, and even our personal decisions. Many economists predict that by 2026, AI will be one of the primary engines driving America's economic growth. But along with that promise comes profound risk. To help us unpack both sides, the potential for AI to fuel innovation and the very real dangers of its misuse, we're again joined by Marc Friedman. Marc was a lawyer who specialized in technology cases and matters starting in 1978. In fact, he has been called the father of computer law. I'm delighted to have him again as my guest to discuss this very important topic. Marc?
Well, first of all, Mark, thank you very much for having me. I am delighted to be doing these podcasts with you, and I consider you to be a friend. Uh, this is a very important conversation we're having right now because AI has crossed the line from being a niche technology to a fundamental part of the infrastructure of modern life. It's transforming how businesses operate, how governments make decisions, how people interact with the world, how they interact with each other. I think this is a great topic for us to be taking a deep dive into at this time.
I agree. There are some economic issues relative to AI, and I want to delve into those a bit. Let's start with the big question. Why do so many economists believe AI will be a major driver of economic growth in the coming years?
Well, artificial intelligence, AI, is not just another tool. It's what we call general purpose technology. This means it has applications across virtually every industry, similar, for example, to electricity or the internet. Let me give you a couple of examples, Mark. In manufacturing, AI powered robotics increases productivity, reduces waste, and improves quality control. I'm particularly interested in the use of AI in healthcare because of a company I helped form in 2012. In healthcare, machine learning models and AI can analyze vast amounts of genetic or medical data to detect diseases earlier or develop personalized treatments. This one company that I have been involved with has developed artificial intelligence for the very early diagnosis of breast cancer in women and, with special significance, thyroid cancer. We know that financial institutions are using artificial intelligence for fraud detection, risk modeling, and we also know transportation networks rely on artificial intelligence to optimize routes and fuel efficiency. These, Mark, are just a handful of examples. There are so many more. The result is a sweeping rise in efficiency. Businesses can do more with fewer resources. Workers can focus on tasks that require creativity, empathy, or strategic thinking rather than repetitive labor. AI is a great time saver if used properly.
We're not just talking about then job replacement, but job transformation. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. History shows that every major technological revolution, from the steam engine to computing, initially displaced certain jobs. But the technologies ultimately created new industries and new opportunities. That is true for the steam engine and for computers. With AI, I predict we will see an expansion of roles, like, to give you a couple examples, algorithmic auditing, AI system maintenance, ethics compliance, data engineering, and human AI collaboration management. And you know what, Mark? It's not just the high tech companies that are going to benefit. Small, mid sized businesses can now access affordable AI tools for marketing, logistics, and forecasting. ChatGPT is a very good example of this. That democratization of artificial intelligence can lead to a productivity boom that lifts entire sectors of our economy.
All right, let's make this a little more tangible. How, in your view, is AI already changing daily life for the average person?
Mark, AI is everywhere, and often in ways we don't even know. When you use your phone's camera to improve a photo, that's AI. When your streaming service recommends a show that perfectly matches your mood, that's AI. When a hospital uses predictive analytics to detect heart disease risk earlier, that's AI. I use AI for a variety of reasons. For example, I wanted to find a new orthopedist in our area who would be particularly suited to treat a problem I'm having with one of my legs. And by using ChatGPT and asking a number of inquiries, I was able to identify just the right person to help me. Think about agriculture, Mark. AI driven drones monitor crop health and they optimize irrigation of those crops. In education, adaptive learning systems adjust lesson plans in real time based on student performance. In fact, I have a client who is with AI developing a system to help students with special needs accomplish their academic goals. Even local governments use artificial intelligence to analyze traffic flow, manage energy consumption, improve emergency responses, and much more. My point is, Mark, each of these examples that I've given contributes to economic growth, not just economic growth, but in my view, they contribute to the quality of life. We have healthier people, smarter cities, more efficient industries, a safer environment. AI can contribute to the well being of humanity in ways we cannot even now contemplate.
That's the optimistic view. Let me take on for a minute the role of doubting Thomas. Every major technological revolution also brings disruption, and in the case of AI, the potential for harm is especially serious. What concerns you most?
Well, I am very concerned about the potential for harm through the misuse of AI tools. The biggest concern I have is the scale and speed of misuse. Artificial intelligence can be used to create harm faster, more cheaply, and more effectively than any prior technology. Let me give you some examples to make this point, Mark. First, let's talk about disinformation. AI can now generate very realistic fake videos, voices, and news articles. Deep fakes that are almost impossible to distinguish from reality. These tools, and we've already seen this happening, particularly by foreign players like Russia and Iran, these tools can be used to manipulate elections, incite social unrest, or destroy reputations. We've seen that happening particularly among teens. The line between truth and fabrication, because of the use or misuse of AI, is becoming dangerously thin. I can give you another example. Let's consider cybersecurity. AI can automate hacking. It learns from its failed attempts. It can create phishing emails so realistic that they'll even fool cybersecurity experts. AI can find weaknesses in computer code faster than humans can patch them. Let me give you another area of misuse: bias and discrimination. AI systems trained on biased data reproduces those biases. Let me explain what I mean. We've seen facial recognition systems that misidentify people of color, and hiring algorithms that inadvertently penalize women or underrepresented groups. If this is left unchecked, AI could hardwire inequality, prejudice, bias, discrimination into our digital systems. Another area that I'm deeply concerned with is surveillance and privacy, Mark. With facial recognition, voice analysis, behavioral tracking, like is being done in China, AI makes it possible to monitor individuals like you and me and our families at unprecedented levels. Governments and corporations, unless they're controlled, can collect massive amounts of data, often without our consent. And then there's one more risk that I am deeply concerned about, and that's the weaponization of uh, AI. Uh, for example, autonomous drones that are driven by AI can identify targets. AI generated propaganda can manipulate public opinion. We're facing entirely new categories of threats. Just imagine if a terrorist were to equip a drone with AI and look for a large apartment building uh, to to shoot at or to bomb. That's just one example of how AI could be misused, how it can be weaponized. These five subjects that I described are just the ones that jump to the forefront of my mind. There are many other ways in which artificial intelligence could be misused to the detriment of humanity.
The list you provide is a sobering list in and of itself. It just sounds to me like AI has made it easier for bad actors to scale harm in ways we couldn't do before. And that is profoundly concerning.
Well, it's concerning to me, and I think that's exactly the case, Mark. In the past, misinformation or cybercrime, something that I've studied, required significant time or resources for miscreants to do. Now, a single individual with a laptop sitting in his bedroom can generate millions of convincing fake images or launch coordinated disinformation campaigns. The barriers to entry that previously existed have collapsed entirely. That's what I was referring to before when I talked about the democratization of the AI. These are potentially, what shall I say, mind-blowing problems that can result from the misuse of artificial intelligence.
So let's accept the obvious that the technology is not going away. How do we keep it from being misused in the manner that you just described? What is it we can actually do?
Well, I've given this a great deal of thought, and to be candid, I have not reached conclusions I'm comfortable with. Let me explain why. What we need is we need much smarter regulation of the development and use of AI. We need frameworks that balance innovation, which we certainly want to encourage, with accountability. To me, this requires transparency about how artificial intelligence systems are trained, how their data is used, and who bears responsibility or legal liability when things go wrong. For example, governments could mandate audits for high risk applications like facial recognition or autonomous weapons to make sure that these high risk applications meet safety and ethical standards before they're deployed. I'll give you a second way, hopefully, to prevent the misuse of AI. Developers should adopt a principle that's known as responsible by design. This means that testing for bias, building explainability into algorithms, and including ethicists and social scientists alongside engineers in the design process could reduce the risks I'm talking about. AI systems should be able to explain their decisions in human terms, especially in critical areas like healthcare, criminal justice, or finance. Thirdly, digital literacy. The public needs to understand AI, not just how to use it, but how AI uses us. That's a big difference. Education systems at all levels, grade school, high school, college, graduate school, should teach media literacy, teach data awareness, teach students from a very early age how to think critically. Citizens like you and me and people we know must learn to identify manipulated content and question algorithmic decisions rather than blindly trusting them. I have to do this every day with the junk that comes across the web on my devices. Fourth, we have to address corporate responsibility, Mark. Companies that develop AI, like OpenAI, for example, must commit to transparent practices. That means publishing model cards, disclosing training data, and supporting independent audits. Just as we have sustainability metrics for environmental impact, we should have AI ethics metrics for social impact. And now comes a real challenge. We need global cooperation, and I am concerned this is not happening. And I don't believe it's going to happen if America follows Trump's America First social and governmental isolation policies. AI doesn't respect national borders. We need international agreements, just like the ones we have for climate change, although we withdrew from the Paris Accord, or nuclear nonproliferation pacts, so that we can work with other nations to establish shared safety standards. The risks of runaway AI, deepfake warfare, or algorithmic manipulation are global problems. These are not national problems, state problems, or local problems. These are global issues, and only collective cooperation and governance among nations can begin to address them.
So it seems like all of this ultimately comes down to human judgment, the choices we make about how we build and use these tools. What are your thoughts about how to use better judgment in using these tools, and how we can reap the benefits of AI rather than suffer from the shortcomings?
Well, I think you're absolutely right, Mark. AI does not have intent. It reflects our intent. It reflects the user's intent. The question, therefore, Mark, isn't whether AI will shape the world, but whether we human beings will guide it responsibly for higher and better purposes. The way I see it, Mark, is we have a window. Some say a decade. I think it may be less than that. To establish norms, to create laws, to provide education that will ensure AI enhances humanity instead of undermining it in ways that I've described earlier. If we treat AI development like a race, we risk catastrophe. But if, as responsible human beings, we treat it as a shared responsibility, AI can become one of the greatest tools ever for human progress. I have no doubt about that. And we've seen that particularly in the medical area. Uh, in the diagnostic and treatment areas, using AI to help people recover sooner and better from different serious maladies that they may be suffering from.
To close, what's one message you'd want listeners to take away about AI's future?
I think the one message I would have is be hopeful with vigilance, with responsibility, with conscientiousness. Be hopeful. Don't be afraid. AI has shown us it can help cure diseases. It can mitigate climate change. It can make economies more inclusive. But AI is not self regulating. We have to stay engaged. We have to ask hard questions. We need to demand transparency. If we do that, AI will serve humanity rather than the other way around.
Powerful reminder. Let me, before we close, offer a few thoughts of my own. The first concern I have is that the Trump administration and its cronies in business have cornered the market on AI in this country. They have literally taken charge of AI, and Trump has now basically said that he's going to stop the states from regulating AI, which means we're going to be subject to Donald Trump's version of regulation. Second issue, jobs are being lost right now, and there's no evidence that they're being replaced fast enough to avoid the social disruption that's likely to result from all these lost jobs. Now, those of you who know that I can't resist injecting the political into this issue. From what I can see, the Republicans are in deep trouble right now. Further job loss is going to be a disaster for them. And I think for the short term, AI could be a disaster for the Republicans simply because the job loss and the additional agony that people are going to go through in finding jobs and dealing with the economy's failure right now to replace those jobs, and it could cost them the 2026 elections. What do you think? What do you think of that?
Well, I think you make some very, very salient points. I think that the emergence of AI could, as you suggested, affect not just the 2026 midterm elections, but the 2028 midterm elections, if in fact unemployment goes up as a result of the loss of jobs. And there may be other labor and economic consequences that we see in the short term that could adversely affect the GOP's chance of maintaining their control of Congress or the White House. However, that's only one half of the equation. The other half is that the Democrats need to coalesce and offer a series of programs, a series of definitive measures that address these problems that I've been talking about in the last 30 to 40 minutes or so. So it's a combination of factors. Yes, the Republicans are likely to suffer as a result of the effect that AI is having on employment in the US. But the Democrats also must circle the wagons and come up with a platform that helps Americans to understand how, if they're elected, they are going to deal with these problems before they become catastrophic.
I want to thank you for sharing your insights and helping us see both the opportunity and the urgency in this moment. This is an issue that's not going away. We all know that. And how we manage it, as you've said, is critical. So I want to thank you for coming on and thank you for sharing your thoughts. They've been fascinating from my perspective and have given me, I know, food for thought.
Well, Mark, I just have one comment I wish to end with. I started practicing technology law in 1978. From that time forward, I have followed the developments in several different technologies, including information technology, including emails, the internet, and now AI. I know that with respect to earlier IT technologies, there were those who were afraid of what those technologies were going to bring. And most of those fears, not all of them, turned out to be unfounded. Today, you and I and others have fears about what AI can bring if it's being used by the wrong people for the wrong purposes. The risks that are associated with AI can be controlled if there are people of goodwill who are willing to work together with each other to develop and implement measures, some of which I've discussed, to prevent those consequences from appearing. I'd like to thank you very much, Mark, for providing me with a platform with you to discuss artificial intelligence, the pros and cons, the risks and rewards, the benefits and the dangers. And in a short period of time we've only been able to briefly touch upon these. Thank you so much.
Pleasure has been mine. You're welcome. To our listeners, thank you again for joining us on America's Fractured Politics. If you enjoyed this conversation, please be sure to subscribe and share it with someone who's thinking about the future as well. Until next time, please stay curious and stay informed.